joining me on the line is the National Republican frontrunner, Donald Trump. Good morning, sir.
Hi, Charlie.
How are you?
I'm good.
By the way,
I look forward. I'll be spending a week with you folks, so I look forward to that.
First of all, congratulations, Grandpa. Congratulations on the birth of your grandson yesterday.
That's right. Thank you. That's so nice. So Ivanka's a special person, and they had a beautiful baby. So that was on Easter, so it was an Easter baby, and that's great.
Well, welcome to Wisconsin, and I know that you realize that here in Wisconsin we value things like civility, decency, and actual conservative principles. So let's possibly make some news. I mean, last week you tweeted out a threat to spill the beans on the wife of Ted Cruz, Heidi Cruz. You followed it up by tweeting out a picture that insulted her looks. You know, wouldn't it be a good way to start off your Wisconsin campaign by saying that wives should be off limits and that you apologize for mocking her looks?
Well, by the way, I think it's true, actually, Charlie. But, you know, if you remember, Melania my wife was a very, very big, successful model. And she did a cover shoot for GQ magazine, and it was, you know, a little provocative. It was GQ, and she was a model. But what they did is, and Ted Cruz knew totally about it, and he says he didn't know about it. He totally knew about it, and they sent that out to the people of Salt Lake City, or the people of Utah, and it was, you know, with a very nasty statement on it. So he knew totally about that. If he didn't know about that, it would be a whole different thing, but he totally knew about it. It was done by people that he knows very well.
Well, it was not Ted Cruz or his campaign. So is your standard is that if it,
no, I'm just telling you, he knew
okay,
these
but
people.
So is this your standard that if a
it.
supporter of another candidate, not the candidate himself, does something despicable, that it's okay for you personally, a candidate for president of the United States, to behave in that same way? I mean, I expect that from a 12-year-old bully on the playground, not somebody who wants the office held by Abraham Lincoln.
I did a retweet, and it was a retweet by somebody else because I have a lot of support, a tremendous amount of very fervent supporters, and they were angry about what they did, you know, in sending out this photograph, which was frankly fine. It was an artistic picture, actually. It was a cover of GQ, which is not a big deal.
Your wife is a beautiful, classy woman. Why can't you say the same about Ted Cruz's wife?
I don't know Ted Cruz's wife. I'm sure she's excellent. I mean, I just don't know her. But, you know, all this was a response to what he did.
Okay.
And it was and by the way, Charlie, it was a very minor response to what he did. It was a picture. I didn't even know it was necessarily a very bad picture of her versus Melania. I mean, frankly, but this was a retweet from one of my supporters. I have so many millions of supporters and millions of people on Twitter. You have between Twitter and Facebook, I guess Instagram, I have 15 million people.
And we hear from them frequently. Now, Mr. Trump, you do like to talk about polls a lot, and the recent polls suggest that you have a disapproval rating of about 70% among women. And in southeastern Wisconsin, you are very much underwater, and a lot of that has to do, let's be honest about this, with conservative women who are repelled by your attitude and your treatment of women. And you know they're going to be hearing this ad a lot here in Wisconsin media, and I want to give you a chance to respond to it.
Bimbo, dog, fat pig.
Real quotes from Donald Trump about women.
A person who is very flat-chested is very hard to be a 10.
I'd look her right in that fat, ugly face of hers. Look at that face. Would anyone vote for that?
She had the height, she had the beauty. She was crazy. But these are minor details.
I like kids. I mean, I won't do anything to take care of them. I'll supply funds and...
Okay, Mr. Trump, I'd like to give you a chance to respond to that. That is, of course, from an anti-Trump super PAC, and that ad is going to be airing here in Wisconsin. How do you respond? Because those are all your real quotes, aren't they?
Women are just going to have to see what I've done. I've hired tremendous numbers of women. Women are in my highest executive positions. I pay women in many cases more than I pay men, which is more than most people can say. I'd like to hear what these people... You know, I've been a person that's been in the entertainment business and a very big person in business, and I've been quoted over the years by everybody from the time I started business. For whatever reason, I became a celebrity in a sense, and talking.
Are the rules different for celebrities? Are celebrities allowed to insult women?
The rules are different, but certainly I never thought I would run for office. And many people, you know, Howard Stern would interview me, and everybody would be having fun, and the women would be laughing.
Yeah. Well, but you're saying the same thing. I mean, you have mocked Megyn Kelly, you have mocked Carly Fiorina,
well,
and you are
I'm not a fan of Megyn Kelly. I mean, I'm allowed to say that. If Megyn Kelly were a man, I would be saying the exact same things about Megyn Kelly, and the same thing with Rosie O'Donnell. I'm not a fan of Rosie Rosie O'Donnell.
Well, let me ask
George
you.
is a fan of mine, and you know what? You go back and forth. I don't think there should be a double standard if somebody's a woman, but I can tell you this, Charlie. I have been better to women than any of these candidates. Frankly, I've been taking.
Except you won't apologize to a woman that you mocked.
I have executive people, and at a very, very high level, I have executive people that are women. I gave women early chances in construction, numerous women early chances in construction when nobody else was doing it. And people have said that people have said, in terms of breaking the glass ceiling, that I was a leader in it.
Okay, let me ask you this, because we started off, you and I are both grandpas, we are both fathers. I guess here's a question here in Wisconsin. How should fathers and mothers explain this? I mean, is this the way you'd want anyone want your sons to behave?
I thought this was actually a dead issue until I just spoke to you. I mean, I'd rather be talking about trade. I'd rather be talking about, the things I'm best at, security, border security. I have the support of Sheriff Arpaio in Phoenix, Arizona, which Ted Cruz thought he was going to get, but he never even came.
All right, well, you're in Wisconsin now, and okay, let's talk about issues. That's fair enough. Since you are here in Wisconsin, last August you said some things about conservatives, the conservative revolution here in Wisconsin, and Scott Walker that I wanted to give you a chance to respond to. You said Wisconsin is doing terribly; it's in turmoil. They projected a $1 billion surplus. It turns out to be a deficit of $2.2 billion. The schools are a disaster. The hospitals and education was a disaster. Mr. Trump, do you stand by that now that you are going to be talking to Wisconsinites?
I can't tell you. I got that from Time Magazine. If you read the story from Time Magazine from the time that the statement was made, that's exactly what they said. It was taken out of their verbatim. It was actually taken out of Time Magazine on a story.
Okay, but you said it, Mr. Trump. You're running for president. Do you stand by what you said about Scott Walker?
I can only say what I took out of Time Magazine. I took a story out of Time Magazine, and the story was exactly what it said. It said a $2.2 billion deficit.
Which turns out to be false.
Now, if Time Magazine's wrong, then they should apologize, and then I would certainly apologize for reading Time Magazine. But Time Magazine gave that information.
Now, Mr. Trump, I think probably you know where I stand in this race. I mean, some of us have worked for decades on developing and advancing conservative ideas, and I want to talk about your record. I mean, you've given hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Clintons, to Harry Reid, to John Kerry, Chuck Schumer, Charlie Rangel. In your book, you insulted Ronald Reagan. You praised Obama's stimulus as terrific. You've called for the largest tax hike in history. You've endorsed universal government-run health care. You've endorsed abortion on demand, gun control. So my question is, why shouldn't conservatives here in Wisconsin think that your claim to be a conservative now is just a giant fraud?
Well, first of all, let me just explain that as a businessman, I'd never even thought of many of the things you're talking about. I was never even asked questions about many of the things you're talking about. I gave money to all politicians. I was Republican, but I gave money to all politicians, which was frankly a thing that you would do and every businessman would do it. I never thought I was going to be running for office, and I'm a very straight shooter. And I've said this. I gave money to, I gave money to Democrats and I gave money to Republicans. And I built a great fortune, a great, great company, which I think everybody acknowledges. That's one thing pretty much everybody does acknowledge, not even pretty much. Some of the great assets of the world with very, very low debt, with tremendous cash flow. And frankly, I built a great company, and it's an international company. I deal all over the world. And when you do
you're not answering my question.
Well, no, I am answering. You have to get along with everybody.
You have been a liberal Democrat.
I made contributions to many people.
Right.
Now, in the last few years, as you notice, I was very Republican oriented. But actually, that hurts you because a lot of people won't do business with you. It won't make your life easy when that happens. But I was very Republican-oriented, and I am a conservative. I'm not so conservative when it comes to the pure aspects of trade. I'm the strongest trader there is, and maybe that's ever run for office, Charlie. But I will tell you this. When it comes to trade, we have to have smart trade. I'm a free trader. I believe in free trade, which is nice and conservative, but I believe in free trade. At the same time, Charlie, and I think it's so important to understand, we have to have smart trade. We're losing our shirts to other countries, almost in every instance, but to other countries. We're losing our shirts to China, to Mexico, to Japan, to India, to many, many countries, because we have not got our best and our smartest and our finest negotiating our trade deals.
So do you think,
and
but what would it mean?
Wisconsin would do a lot better with good trade deals instead of bad trade
What
deals.
would happen to Wisconsin? Because many of our jobs here are involved in import-export. What would happen to the price of goods if, in fact, a President Donald Trump were to impose a 45% tariff on goods coming in from China.
But it'll never happen. Wisconsin would end up doing much, much better than it's doing right now. That would never happen. But you have to have the threat out there, because what they're doing is currency manipulation. They're devaluing their currencies, and they're making it virtually impossible for
you're a much better negotiator than I am, but you just said it will never happen. So you've basically given away that your negotiating ploy is a bluff. Didn't you just say you're bluffing?
You've got to have a threat out there. You've got to have something to negotiate with. And what China's doing to us with devaluation, I mean, they're grand chess players. They're making it impossible. It's very, very hard to do business with China. And when you do, you're paying a lot of tax, whereas their goods come in without any tax. And it's a very unfair playing field. And it's not supposed to be that way. The problem is the United States, our leaders, our so-called leaders in Washington, have no clue. They don't know what they're doing, and they have no clue. What I'm saying is if they don't do what I'm saying, we're going to put a tax on them. It could be 45, but it would probably be less than that.
Which would drive up consumer costs.
Currency manipulation, Charlie. It would depend. But Wisconsin would end up doing much, much more business and would make much, much more profit than they're making right now. China is manipulating their currency. So is Japan with the yen.
Mr. Trump, in the moments
they're manipulating their currencies, and they don't allow our country to compete.
All right, let's talk about what is really at stake here, which, of course, is the presidential election, and the latest Real Clear Politics average shows you losing to Hillary Clinton by double digits. And I guess the question is, we're seeing large numbers of Republicans who are saying they will not support you as the nominee. You've insulted just about every prominent conservative thinker and writer in the country: George Will, Charles Kramer, Stephen Hayes, Wall Street Journal, National Review, not to mention Megyn Kelly. Mr. Trump, if you cannot unite conservatives, if you can't unite Republicans, how do you think you'll ever unite the country? How do you think you'll ever be able to beat Hillary Clinton?
Well, I'll tell you, number one, I will beat Hillary, and there are polls that show that I do beat Hillary also. You didn't mention them, but there are numerous polls that show I do beat Hillary one-on-one, but I haven't started on Hillary yet, number one. Number two, I'm an outsider. I came into this as an outsider. I'm a business person. I'm a really good business person. That's what the country needs, because we have $19 trillion in debt, and the politicians will never, a guy like Cruz doesn't even know what it means. The politicians will never be able to straighten it out. In a million years, they'll never be able to figure it out. They'll never be able to straighten it out. I came in with things on NATO as an example. We pay so much disproportionately more for NATO. We are getting ripped off by every country in NATO, where they pay virtually nothing, most of them, and we're paying a majority of the cost.
Okay. If you were to be elected president, you'd obviously have to work with Congress, and including our own, and you're going to his hometown tomorrow, our own Speaker, Paul Ryan. How does President Donald Trump work with Paul Ryan?
I think I do very well. I mean, I spoke to him the other day. He called me the other day. I'm the front runner by far. A poll came out recently where I'm way up on Cruz and everybody else, frankly. I think I'm doing very well. Paul Ryan called me the other day. We had a great talk. He understands what's happening very much. He sees what's going on, and he also sees that I'm the front runner by a lot.
Mr. Trump, before you called into my show, did you know that I'm a hashtag Never Trump guy?
That I didn't know.
Okay, well, because I thought it was interesting, and people were wondering, does Donald Trump know what Charlie Sykes has said about him in the past?
No,
I would give you credit either way on it, but I was wondering.
I understand, but no, I didn't know that, but I assume you're also an intelligent guy. I know you're an intelligent guy, and you understand what's going on. Our country is getting ripped off left and right by every country we do business with, even in NATO. And by the way, when I mention NATO, it's people that are big fans of NATO, and I'm a fan of NATO, maybe in a reconfigured shape because it's obsolete. It's many decades old, but people that are fans of NATO and that never thought of NATO in terms of what to do, they're now saying, read today's New York Times, read yesterday's New York Times. They're saying, Trump is really right. He really is right about NATO. I mean, guys that have been working on NATO for years didn't see what I've seen in NATO immediately. So one of those things.
Again, Mr. Trump,
I'm sure you'll give me credit where credit is.
Well, I am going to give you credit for credit in doing that, and I appreciate you talking with me. Obviously, I failed in my effort to introduce you to Wisconsin and our tradition of civility and decency by getting an apology from you for Heidi Cruz or for what you said about Scott Walker.
Well, am I getting an apology by somebody that sent out a picture of my wife to everybody in the state of Utah?
And as we know, that was an independent group, and you don't want me to hold you accountable for what your supporters are doing.
Apologize? Is Ted Cruz going to apologize for starting it and sending out that picture?
And that's your stand.
I thought it was very inappropriate. And by the way, it was an artsy picture. It was GQ. It wasn't anything horrible. It wasn't Penthouse or Playboy or any of that. But, he should apologize to me, I think. That's how it all started.
Do you ever apologize? Do you ever apologize? Because you know what? Most real men, when they screw up, they'll go, you know what?
No,
I was a hothead. I shouldn't have done that.
I do apologize. I believe in apologizing. But I think I think before I would think about apologizing, he owes me an apology because what he did was wrong. He sent out a picture to people in Utah.
Well, actually, he didn't, and you know that he didn't. You know that it was a super PAC, but I understand your point.
Knew about it. I know he knew about it, and there are some people who say that his group bought the copyright to the picture from GQ magazine, which is a good magazine. GQ is it's a good magazine, Gentleman's Quarterly. It's a good magazine. It's not like a sleazy magazine or anything.
Do you want some free advice, though?
She was on the cover,
I know.
and I think it was inappropriate.
Do you want some free advice? Seriously, since you're now here in Wisconsin, honestly, if you stand up there and you say, folks, let me just say this. I'm running for president. Ted Cruz is running for president. Let's leave our wives out of it. Both of us have married intelligent, beautiful women, and from now on, we are not going to be talking about one another's wives. People in Wisconsin will love that, Mr. Trump.
I don't mind that at all. I think it's great. I think that's fine. Who wouldn't agree to that? I think it's great.
Well,
again, I didn't start it. He started it. If he didn't start it, it would have never happened.
Boy.
Nothing like this would have ever happened. But he started it. So,
yeah.
but I would
remember, we're not on.
You just said it's fine with
me.
me.
We're not on a playground. We're running for president of the United States.
I agree with that 100%. Right. And my views are not playground views. My views are that our country is losing on every front. We're losing militarily. We're losing at trade. We're losing in education. We're losing with our Second Amendment, which is being knocked at every corner. And nobody's stronger in the Second Amendment than I am. Nobody. And we're losing at every single corner of our country. Especially we're losing with trade because we're becoming a poor country because other countries are ripping our country off. And I'm the only one that knows how to stop it.
Donald Trump, thanks so much for joining me. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you very much.